Hey, y'all, welcome back to the Fishing for Men podcast. This is part of Fishing for Men Ministries, and we exist to help equip men, build community, and live lives transformed by Christ. And honestly, we're just grateful that you took the time to take a listen in with us. We hope you find something valuable and hope this is something that encourages you. Today, I am your host, Billy, and the other two guys I got in the room with me are...
Brandon here.
And George.
Just the three of us this evening as we jump into record. But we're continuing our series on the Bible. And the first couple of episodes, we talked about the New Testament. We talked about the Old Testament, really wanting to showcase that the Bible is just one connected story. And if you've never really viewed it that way, that's really the picture and idea that we kind of wanted to get across because it's one connected story, which is just awesome as you get to read it and see how it all really fits together. And so for today, we're going to take a little bit of transition. We're going to jump into an application side of the house. But I have a question. Have you ever been that person? Maybe your family is watching a movie and you walk in the room and you sit down. You're like, I think I kind of know what's going on. But then you sit there and you're like, wait, hold on. Wait, I didn't know. Who's that? What's going on here? What's the context? And everybody's like, dude, you got to just watch it from the beginning. Have you ever been that person?
That'd be my wife most of the time.
I guess maybe more maybe, cause I feel like, I don't know. Are you movie people or series people? I guess really that's the question first.
Depends on the mood.
Okay.
But, okay, so I did that recently.
Did what?
Story time.
Okay, sorry.
Have you heard of the show The Bear? It's on Hulu.
I've heard of
yes.
it, but tell us about it.
It's just a guy who loses his brother, and they have a family beef sandwich shop, and he takes it over, and he's like a culinary guy. He's like an actual chef. He worked for a restaurant that got like 2 Michelin stars, so he's like great, and he has this dream to convert it into a Michelin star restaurant. And I started the show, and I get like 4 episodes in, and I'm like, okay, I'm trying to make sense of things. Turns out I started season 2, watched half of it, and just randomly realized it several days later, and I was like, oh, that's why.
Yeah, like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
Like, who are you? Why are you? What? Have you ever been that person, Brandon?
Probably, but nothing's coming to mind for me.
I can't think of a specific one. I do know, like, my kids do that to me all the time. Mm-hmm. We're like, we'll be watching something, and they'll like walk in the room, like, wait, hold on. I'm like, yes. Well, who's that? What's going on? Who are they? Why are they here? What are they doing? What is their role? Are they married? Are they dating? What is going on? And you're like, I might as well just hit restart. And so we bring that up because I think sometimes we open up what I'll call this library of 66 books. And we just kind of start reading. Mm-hmm. And then we start going, wow, who is that? And why is that here? Why does that matter? Why do they repeat that 8 times? Couldn't they have just said it once? And there's all these questions that start popping up from either context or characters or themes or all kinds of different things. I don't know. Have you ever had that feeling as you read the Bible? Maybe with Leviticus, Brandon?
I just skipped over that, but I think, as you're saying that, I think it ties back to, I would give 2 reasons why I think that happens a lot. And I'm saying this in the context of someone who even maybe grew up in church, not necessarily even someone who grew up outside of church, is new to faith as an adult, and is just trying to get into the Bible. I'd say that's true even for people who grew up going to Sunday school and hearing stories from the Bible. Sure. I think there's 2 big reasons. One, because that's how we were taught the Bible. We were taught the Bible as these like siloed stories. Mm-hmm. So I heard a very like kid-friendly version of the creation story, and then of Noah, or
which even sometimes we're still stuck in those stories.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I think very much so.
We don't get the full story.
No, yeah, that like those impressions from when we were a kid are big, but we're taught that story. We're taught one little nugget. It might be about God's character or us or some like application to our life, right? Which none of those are bad per se, but that's what stuck with us as adults. So all we know is these one-off stories,
Yep.
clips, and we're never taught how they connect together. And it wasn't until the past couple of years for me where I learned to view the Bible like you were talking about just a minute ago, that it's one connected story. And if I were to add anything to that, I'd say it's one connected story that points to Jesus.
Sure.
And so that, like hearing that statement from me was like the first big hint, like we were just talking about with the movie, like where someone gave me the main plot and I was able to sit down and be like, oh, now I'm starting to see
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. And even I think if you've started to read the Bible, or maybe you've ventured down that idea of, hey, I'm going to read it in chronological order, and then as soon as you get like 6 books in, you're like,
Leviticus.
we're going to jump six. You're like, wait, hold on,
Leviticus.
this book wasn't already in chronological order. And so that's a challenge for
Yeah.
us because it's not in chronological order. And so that's kind of what we just want to spend some time talking about today.
Yeah.
Is how do you read this book? Because every part of it is purposeful, obviously inspired by God. And so I take that as, every word means something intentional, even to the, what does it say, the dots and the tittles?
Yes.
As it described, they will never pass away, and so they're all super important. So we just want to take today, be really practical, and give some resources from what we have done in our own journeys of doing this, of where we started when we first decided, hey, look, this is probably something that I should do, to man, this is really fun. Going from beginner to maybe intermediate and advanced is kind of the 3 categories that we throw them in today, but that's where we're going to spend our time. So to start off, think back to when you first started reading the Bible, or just maybe to consciously made the decision like, hey, I should probably pick this book up and start doing it. What did that look like for you? Where did you start? Was there a resource that you used to go through it? Talk me through some of that.
I read the Bible off and on since middle school in various ways, shapes, and forms. But I would say it wasn't until within the past 5 years that I started reading it like we were just talking about, like within context and diving deep. So until then, I might read a whole book. I never read it cover to cover, but it was very like fragmented. So that means, a good 30 years of my life, close to it, probably 25 at least. That's how I read the Bible.
It's kind of story for story.
Story for story. I knew things, I knew verses and stuff, but other than like pulling those things out and having like little mini applications, I don't think I could have like shared much beyond that.
Sure.
Yeah. So it was really learning to view it as one cohesive story that really helped me. And I think there were 2 big things. In the beginning, doing it, 1, in community, and 2, hearing it from other people who had gone through the same process were the biggest help for me. In other words, not going and reading some like very like deep theological book or, like PhD level type of thing. It was more like just people who love the word explain it in a practical way. Mm-hmm. That's how I got started.
What about you, George?
I remember, so after being challenged in college about what I believed as a Catholic with a couple buddies in college, they invited me to a Bible study, and I think they did like Romans 1 through 12. Ooh. And as per usual,
Good place to start.
it was. Yeah. And as per usual, they would have you like read beforehand.
Yeah.
For that week's meeting and study, like read a couple verses in Romans, whatever. And as I'm there, I'm noticing, okay, other than studying this specific book that we're doing, I'm hearing these older, maybe other guys my age, or maybe they were younger, talking about how during their time in the morning, during their time at night, they read such and such book and they got whatever out of it. And I was like, okay, looking back in my life, that was probably the first time of actually reading the Bible. Like in mass, they read a couple verses in the Old Testament and the New Testament, and then there's always like a gospel and then like a message based on those readings. So it really wasn't until after that Bible study and after being challenged what I really believed, I was like, well, like it sounds like if I want to be a believer of Jesus, I got to read this book that everyone's talking about.
Might be something too.
Yeah, it's probably pretty helpful.
Yeah.
How about you, Billy?
So my journey didn't start until 4 years ago. Grew up in church, did the mission trips, did all the things, did the Wednesday night. So the way we grew up, it was students had their own service, middle school and high school on Sundays in our own space. And then Wednesdays were like the Bible study days that you did. But I don't ever remember. And even sometimes we did these at like different homes and stuff like that. But I don't ever remember, and my mom will be sure to correct me if I'm wrong, that I don't ever remember picking up and actually opening my Bible outside of church or those Wednesday nights or at camp or wherever that was. Like, I don't ever remember. I had one, but I don't ever remember actually like opening it, like just to read for myself. And
That was more something you did at church in that setting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't remember taking a Bible to church either. And so like I knew very much like you talked about, Brandon, like, man, I knew the story, the main stories we talked about. Yeah. I could probably give you just a general idea of sort of the structure of the Bible and the way it was laid out from the timeline perspective, because I also went to a Christian elementary school and we used to do Bible challenges. So where you had to go, or they called them sword challenges, where you had to put both your hands over, one under, one over, and they would give you a Bible verse, and you had to open it up. And you didn't have tabs on it. You had to go find the verses, and they're the first one to do it. You raise your hand, you win. And so like I knew all that. I knew the books of the Bible. I could tell you where they're at, but I never actually read it.
Yeah.
And so when we started going back to church in 2020, even after I'd recommitted my life to Christ, man, I still didn't pick it up.
Yeah.
And so whenever I made that conscious decision, I was like, well, it means I'm probably going to have to get up earlier because I don't think I'm going to be able to carve out other time to do it. So I was like, God, if I'm going to do this, like, I'm going to need you to like get my butt up in the morning. And I very distinctly remember there were mornings that I would wake up and like halfway through, I've got forehead on the desk. Like, like I was just
no joke, right?
Like just so tired. But I'm like, God, I know I need to do this and it's going to suck. And I did a Bible in a year plan.
Yeah.
And the way I'm wired is if I miss a day, it means I have to do both the next day because I cannot be behind because I will do this in 365 days.
Yeah.
And part of that was good. Part of that is not great because it becomes sometimes a checkbox. But what I heard both of you say is you got to do it in community, which I thought was really cool. And that's something we want to drive home in any stage that you're ever reading the Bible. Is that doing it in community is always better. I did not do that because I wasn't connected in church yet.
Sure.
And so I just did it by myself in the morning with the Bible recap with Tara Lee Cobble. And so she was my voice that was like, hey, this is what you just read. And for me, the biggest thing that highlighted through all of that was the skewed view of God that I had. And so
you came to that realization just by reading on your own?
Yes, because in that, she points out, where did you see God's character? Where was your God shot? In every day that you do it. And so I think for just like many people, I had an idea that God was kind of angry in the Old Testament. He seemed really nice in the New Testament. But then you actually read the Old Testament and go through everything, and you get to see his character that talks about in Exodus. And man, it is so cool to watch all these little spots. Some days are challenging. Leviticus and Numbers, very challenging to figure out where God is always at in those sometimes, especially in
the
genealogy.
mold. What are we talking about the mold for?
I just read 3 chapters of names. Where are you, God? Those might have been forehead moments on the desk.
Which, a side note of encouragement, I totally did the same thing. I would get up early in the morning and fall asleep on the couch, and I was like, "What did I get up for?"
But hey, persevere
Yes.
through those.
It's a
through those
discipline
things,
for a reason.
because if I would have given up, I would have not fallen in love with the Bible to where I am today.
Yeah, and you bring up a really, really important point, I think, because lots of times when I hear about Bible studies and reading the Bible and resources and stuff, I tend to hear 2 arguments, which is one, we're not literate enough in the Bible. We need to learn more about the Bible. And then the opposite side of it seems to be that, like, okay, but what good is that if it doesn't change who you are as a person? Like, what's the application?
Yeah.
So I think both of those have fair points. And having a balance between those 2 is good. But even more important than that, I think, is not about where we see ourselves in the story of the Bible, or even necessarily what application point we can take to do ourselves. I think the biggest thing is, where do we see God and what he's done?
Yeah.
Where do we see Jesus and what he's done? And how does that change our view of him? In other words, by us seeing God and be enamored by him and drawn into him to like a posture of worship, I think that's where the biggest transformation happens.
For sure.
And out of that will change, and those other kind of application pieces will be a natural response of that.
Absolutely. Because if you haven't ever heard this, but the Bible isn't about you.
Nope. But I think, I know growing up, that's how I was
for sure.
taught to,
Like, what?
to do.
Okay, cool. What do I need to do out of this?
Yeah.
I did a fun exercise with Genesis 1 the other day.
You did Genesis 1? I
Yeah.
love Genesis 1.
And so I started with Genesis 1:1, and it was, hey, in the beginning, God created. And I'm like, I wonder where else. Like, I kept reading, and it kept saying, God did this. And it was like all these adjectives. It was really cool. I'm trying to see if I wish I had the book that I brought with it, but I think there's 12 that came out of this, all these different things. It was God created, God formed, God planted, God separated. It was all God, 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 God,
With
God,
these
God, God,
action
God, God.
words,
Like,
yeah.
Oh, wow.
it was about God, not about me.
Yeah.
It wasn't about me trying to figure out how many days, or like how many days are in the days. Is it 6 days or 7 days? Is it years in the days? Like, it's not totally about that. It's about who God is and this macro view of him creating the world, and that he's sovereign over all of those things. And it was like, God did all these things. Like, man, that just so cool. Just in the first chapter, like, this is highlighting, this is about God. It's not about us. And it's about him revealing himself through his people. And then once you have that perspective, the other cool part is that this is a book that it's okay to go to the very end and see the spoiler alert.
Right.
What do you mean by that?
So if you go read Genesis 1, 2, and then go read the last 2 chapters of Revelation, which I think is 21, 22, you get to see the end of the story. And so I recently heard that oftentimes we like to just stay in the middle of that, and we don't actually view how the perspectives of both beginning and the end actually influence all the things in the middle.
Yeah.
And we don't actually then live our lives with the perspective of understanding the beginning and the end. We actually live our lives kind of stuck in the middle of the mess.
Of something that's going to come, but it's out there in vain.
Yeah, it's
Is
like
that what
far
you mean?
away, and like, yeah, it might happen. Maybe not in my lifetime, but I have a hope that will happen. And so I think it's a cool book that you get to do that. You can go take a look at the end and just take those 4 chapters and then read the Bible with that perspective in mind and kind of see what that looks like and how that's weaved all the way through all 66 books.
Does it come full loop, or is it a different end from the beginning? Like come full circle?
It is really, I was going to say weird, but it's not weird. It's really cool in how similar it is and how it almost like folds up
Came back.
really nicely.
Yep.
Just all the things that they talk about. Go read some pick out some of the themes that are in there, and then go kick over in there. I'm like, oh, it's there. Oh, it's there. Oh, it's there. It's there. So it's really cool. So what would you say to the person out there's like, all right, I think I probably should do this. I'm listening to this. Like, whoa, where do I start and what do I do? Like, what does this look like? How do I do this?
That's a good question. I'm thinking if I were sitting down with someone like over lunch, for example, I'd want to know how they like to learn. So, example, is it realistic for them to get up at 5 a.m. and read the Bible in the dark by themselves?
Sure.
They may need, you could be someone that likes to process somewhere quiet, and that's helpful for you. That's where you're going to absorb the most. Then, yeah, I would say picking up the Bible probably with like a year-long reading plan that helps provide some structure for you and some like additional information
I'm a
outside of
structure
just
person.
your own readings, probably helpful. We'll talk about these a little bit more later, but I think there's some really helpful podcasts that are good. That if you like that type of interaction better, or again, if you learn best by talking through things with other people, then yeah, definitely finding some sort of Bible study that's focused on like actually learning the Word and going through it in depth. So, and it could be a combination of any of those things as well, but those are just the top things that come to mind. So what works with how God wired your brain?
Yeah, one of the questions I always ask somebody is like, they're like, well, when do I do it? I'm like, well, what's the most consistent time you have in the day to actually do it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that morning? Is that evening? Is that lunchtime? Like, where will you be most consistent? And if you don't, well, we may have to carve some stuff out. Like that was me. Like I had to not do something in order to input the Bible into that. But figure out where's that time that's going to be most consistent for you.
Yeah.
What about you, George?
I'm hearing you guys talk, and I'm encouraged, first of all, because if I'm putting myself as a listener out there right now, and I'm trying to start reading the Bible, hopefully what I would want, or what I'm listening and hearing you guys say is like, there's not one right answer, because I bet I'm going to ask you real quick, like, is how you read the Bible in the beginning 4 years ago for you, and a couple years ago for you, Brandon, as you shared. Does it look the same?
Oh gosh, no.
As it looks now.
Yes and no.
Okay.
The getting up in the morning and carving out that time is the same.
Yep.
Is like the staple of it.
Yep.
Right.
The things around it, I would say, have changed. Like, as far as I don't do the same reading plan every year. Like I may read the Bible cover to cover one year, or I may decide that I'm going to not do that this year and really spend a lot of time in a certain passage and bring in outside commentaries and other resources to help me process it on a deeper level, or just spend time meditating on myself. So there's more approaches to it now than maybe in the beginning, but I would still say like the structure of it being a daily thing that I set time aside to do by myself, but then also other outlets for it in community has more or less stayed consistent.
Sure.
I think that's the cool part, is that like it can change as you learn. You might try a technique that you heard a Bible study that he does.
Sorry to cut you off. There's always more resources coming in. There's too many.
Yeah. I know.
My Amazon list is like gonna hit capacity.
And I've got a stack of books at home that I've not read yet.
Yep.
I would say it's also like, I think it's good to try those things. Like try the year plan, then just try a book for a year, or like me, Brandon and I did just the Sermon on the Mount. Was that 2 years ago?
Yeah, I think so. Wow. Time passes by fast.
It was just the Sermon on the Mount. And you're like, well, how did that, like, that's only like 3 chapters.
Oh.
How do you do that for a year?
Rich.
Like I think that's the cool thing, is there's so many layers in there, and you can spend a year on 3 chapters. I think as I've gone through and I've done a bunch of different stuff, the cool thing is you learn about how you do like to read it. I have learned that I suck at 365 day plans because of what I just talked about earlier, is because for me and the way that I'm wired, I will turn it into a checkbox of cool, I just did it. Cool, I just did. I actually had to catch myself in that about a month and a half ago in the year-long plan that I'm in now, because I was just trying to like get through them. And I'm like, what am I getting out of this? Like, am I learning anything, or am I just reading through just to go, okay, cool, I did my thing in this morning, and it wasn't. And so I've switched that. It's still my structured plan, and I still follow it. But I've given myself the grace that, hey, you don't have to get this done in a year.
Yeah.
It's not required. Nobody's going to put an X over you because you didn't get it done in 365 days. And that I want to read it in a year-long time frame, sure. But I also want to read it, and I want to actually go slowly, because what I found is that I was not allowing myself time to ask questions, because they were popping up. I'm like, yeah, I have a question about that, but I still have 2 more chapters to read, and I only got 20 minutes left, and the kids are about to be up, so let me just get through the other 2 chapters, and then I'll close it to be done. And I never got to the question that I actually wanted to answer.
Yeah.
So I just go slow.
Yeah.
Now, but I still I like the structure of a plan like that. However, I like to go slow, and so that's what I've learned over the 4 years.
Yeah.
Is that I can do it at my own pace, and that's okay.
Yeah, that may be as I was listening to you talk, I thought that may be a little bit more of a beyond beginner type of thing, because I do think building that rhythm and habit in your life is
if you
really
haven't
important
done
at
it
the beginning.
before, then yes, I think you kind of have to, just like if you go work out at the gym or you want to run a marathon, like there's just going to be days that suck, and you kind of just got to like build that habit of getting it done. And that is what doing a year-long plan did for me the first time. Is it ingrained a habit into me that now has become just a really cool, fruitful moment during the day. What about devotionals? Take on that. Would you recommend them to people, or would you rather just pick up a Bible?
So I used those more in the beginning. I find myself not going around them much anymore.
Yeah, I have a bunch of them. I brought a bunch. They're actually sitting here on the table.
Yes, Billy insisted on bringing a large stack.
I did. I brought all kinds of. We were getting. This is where we should have video, but like, we did. I brought a bunch of them. I didn't actually realize how many devotionals I actually had sitting on my bookshelf.
This one's very appropriate to the name of our podcast.
Yeah, Catch a Better Life by Mr. Jimmy Houston, who used to be a pro fisherman. I actually got that one from my dad. But I will say, if you haven't read the Bible before, and maybe you don't want to go get, maybe you don't want to commit to like all 66 books in a year. I totally get that. And so the devotional could be a good sort of dip your toe into it. They do a lot of devotionals that actually tie into like preferences of like activities that you do. So like that one's about fishing. He gives a fishing tip at the end of every devotional. There's ones on sports. There's ones on outdoor stuff. Like there's all kinds of different devotionals that sort of help you get into it. And I think they're great. I would just encourage people not to always stay
That's
there.
exactly what I was going to say. It may be a good entry point if you're really dragging your feet and you need something relatable, but don't get stuck there. Don't stop there.
Yeah, because I think it misses context. I think there's a lot of things whenever you don't get to actually sit down and go
Picks
through
and chooses things.
for sure. So I think they're good to get into that.
But not to completely bash on them. And I think we did this as a group. The Fishing for Men guys did it a couple of years ago. But like as we're recording this, it's close to Easter. So I've done devotionals, or we did it as a group, like Holy Week, right? And that was for a set amount of time for a specific purpose that like caused us to slow down and think about Easter in a different way, a little more intentionally than we normally would have. So not to say devotional is bad, don't ever do them. They can have their time and purpose, but I wouldn't recommend that be the only way you read the Bible.
Sure. And I think that kind of even ties into like some of the YouVersion stuff. They have a lot of great plans. They've got year-long plans, month-long plans, 6-month plans. I mean,
3-day plans.
3-day plans. Like whatever you need, wherever you're at in a time capacity standpoint, they have something that will fill that gap for you, which is cool. And again, they have very specific ones if there's like themes that you want to study or like a Holy Week thing. I think they're good and to get you like in specific areas, just whether it's for a week or 10 days or whatever. Were you going to say something, Brandon?
I don't think
Okay.
so.
I think they're great at like engaging, like pulling you in. And I've heard it said a couple times. It's also like good in groups. Like if you're going to do it with a group and then like talk about it, like have a group chat about it. A thought that I had is if you find yourself realizing in your faith journey, like I'm wanting to learn about God and spend time in His Word, and maybe you're at the same time you're trying to kick off this like social media habit and doom scrolling, or there's things that you're trying to stay away from and fill your time with. I think devotional is also a good way to like, you're waiting for your coffee or your food, and just pull it up and spend 10 to 15 minutes doing that rather than anything else. So
for sure. And I would say like a lot of these, I think you can get a lot of the devotionals digitally too. Like there's a lot of, everything is super accessible. The one thing I also will say, like if you're just starting out and you don't have a Bible, go get a physical Bible.
Yes.
Like I'm a big stickler on that. Like go get a physical Bible.
How do I pick one out, Billy?
great question.
Again, back to the question of earlier of when, now that, which one do I pick? Which one will you read?
Any recommendation?
Let's start there.
Well, okay, I guess I should back up. That may be a question that doesn't make sense to some listeners. Like, isn't the Bible the Bible? What do you mean? Which one should I pick?
So there's a big, long, or wide, not long, but wide spectrum of translations. Like, I would say some people, hey, the diehard King James fans, they're out there and they love their King James Bibles.
One of our teachers at our Thursday morning men's Bible study
loves it.
I love it, but it was kind of funny, right?
Yeah. But man, it for me, it is a challenge to actually like read through all those ye's and thous and those. And so I for me, I'm not going to pick that one. However, I will say with YouVersion, they have all of the different translations on them. So this is a good way to like go do that too. But I do sometimes flip through different ones.
So you can pick and choose and kind of see what. So as far as translations go, there's kind of like a spectrum of translations. There's some that are more on like that they're literal, like they're trying to mimic the original language as much as they can in English, which ends up being kind of odd. Like it doesn't sound like natural English.
Yeah. Like the NASB is sometimes like that.
A little bit that
It's
way.
actually my study Bible that I have is that one, but I wanted it for that purpose.
Yeah. So you can kind of get that flavor, right? And then there's ones that are, and then on the other side of the spectrum is ones that aren't so literal in their translation. They're just trying to get the overall concept.
Yeah, they're more thematic in their passage.
Yeah.
That'd be like the Message Bible.
Yeah, is on the very far side. New Living Translation is over there as well.
Yep.
And then you have the ones that are kind of in the middle, a balance of the two.
Yep, for sure. I would say where I've kind of landed, I actually have 4 different ones. I have an ESV. I have a CSB. I didn't know I had an ESV until I went back and looked, and I was like, oh, I didn't realize this was an ESV Bible. But I have an ESV. I have an NIV. The one I use like on my like take to church days is an NIV. The only reason why I've kept it, quite honestly, is because I've spent so much time annotating and writing notes and stuff. I'm like, I don't want to start over.
Yeah.
But I would say the 2 that I land on the most are the CSB and the ESV.
Those are very similar, aren't they?
They are.
Yeah.
The CSB does a little bit more of a better job in sort of the literal translation that is readable.
Okay.
I have the NASB just because I liked it is very much more literal.
Yeah.
But sometimes you're like, what? So yeah, pick one that you will actually read. I would probably, if you're just starting out, I think the NIV is probably a really good place.
Yeah, that's more middle of the road. ESV, CSB are also very readable too.
Yeah, for sure. And if you really want to, this kind of starts to get into the intermediate one, but if you really want to if you just want to buy one, like get the study version too, because it has notes, it has all
maps. I like
maps. It's got, hey, this is what this word actually means in like the literal language, and then it kind of
gives you some context. It also lots of them. I have the ESV Study Bible. It will give you like some historical context of the book to kind of frame what's going on. So you're like, oh, okay,
for sure. And I know like Spencer's reading like an apologetics Bible right now, which is kind of cool too. So they got all kinds of different.
There's so many.
There's so many.
That's one thing that I think I will like try to drive home. Is it took me several years to like really invest.
Oh, for
in a
sure.
Bible. Like prior to that, it was just like, oh, I was given a Bible, or
Yeah.
there was an extra Bible laying around, and I just like picked up one that looked cool.
Yeah,
rather
absolutely.
than like being like, okay, what's
Intentional,
inside of this?
yeah.
Correct. Especially the study versions, I
Yeah.
think they're great.
And you'll find like there are some, the reason why I switched between them, like if I want to get different translations and stuff, because sometimes the wording is actually like the actual message of that verse is a little bit different in each of them. And I'm looking for like consistent themes, or I'm looking for what word they used there and what that actually translates back into.
Yeah, and there's helpful. I think we'll get into
Yeah.
it here in a little bit, but there's helpful apps and stuff that
Yeah.
you can just look all that up really quickly. That makes it easy. You don't have to have 10 different versions of
Yeah.
the Bible in physical form plus concordances, et cetera, which you used to have to, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, y'all. We had so much fun recording this episode, and it ended up being quite a long episode for just one. So we decided to split this into two separate parts. For part one here, we hope you learned something. We hope you found a valuable resource as you were listening to this, and be sure to tune in to the next episode. That is part two of the different Bible resources that we have used as a group and we find valuable. Until then, we'd appreciate it if you go hop over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you might be listening to, and just hit that like button, share it out. It helps us really honestly just get out there to more listeners. And so we really appreciate it if you were able to take the opportunity to do that. You can also check us out at fishingformenministries.org, or on Instagram or on LinkedIn. You can just search Fishing for Men Ministries to find us there. Please stay tuned and catch us on part two of the Bible study resources in the next couple weeks. Thanks, y'all.